Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. Political maneuvering is getting into full swing ahead of Iraq's general election in January. Different parties are all clamoring to create powerful alliances. The latest bloc is called the Iraqi National Movement. It combines the secular forces of two prominent politicians, Iyad Allawi and Saleh al-Mutlaq. Iraqi politicians are increasingly using nationalist rhetoric to core the secular liberal segment of society. Two electoral coalitions have the words Iraqi and national in their titles, underscoring the power of Iraqi nationalism to win voters. But are these politicians true patriots, or are they simply using cheap election slogans?
As Iraq's general elections in January looms, political alliances are rapidly shaping up. The most recent of which is the birth of the Iraqi National Movement. It's an alliance of two major secular groups. The first, led by former interim Prime Minister Iyad Allawi, a Shia Muslim, and the second, led by current MP Saleh al-Mutlaq, a Sunni Muslim. Both Allawi and al-Mutlaq say their winning ticket is ending sectarianism and building the state's institutions.
We don't want the movement to be temporary or just formed for the sake of the elections. We want it to be present in rebuilding the Iraqi state, regaining the Iraqi identity, and help the new Iraq to rise.
The new political alliance also calls for the end of regional interference in Iraq, thought to be a pointed reference to Iran. And both leaders oppose current Prime Minister Nour al-Maliki's policies aimed at securing another term in office. They say the current policies of the government have failed in every aspect. But the two leaders of the new Iraqi National Movement also have their critics. Those critics say Allawi and Mutlaq have both links to the deposed Ba'ath Party. The two leaders deny this allegation, arguing that real national reconciliation should include former Ba'athists who don't have blood on their hands. Iraqi seems to have had enough of religious parties playing on the sectarian divide. The last provincial elections showed a decline for certain Shia religious parties, an indication perhaps that a cross-sectarian secular ticket may resonate with the Iraqi public. Omar Saleh for Inside Iraq.
To discuss the aims and prospects of the new alliance, Iraqi National Movement, I'm delighted to welcome from London Fareed Sabri, Director of the Iraqi Islamic Party office in the UK, and from Baghdad by Ghassan al-Atiyah, the Director of the Iraq Foundation for Development and Democracy. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. Fareed Sabri, this new alliance was supposed to include several other blocs and several other parties. Instead, it's limited to just two politicians. Was it the differences in politics as well as orientation that prevented the others from joining this new movement?
Well, I think there is a kind of differences between the two main blocs, Iyad Allawi, headed by Iyad Allawi, and Saleh al-Mutlaq. They wanted really to get the main share of the new Iraqi politics after the elections. They wanted really to exclude Tariq al-Hashimi and to exclude Rafi al-Isawi from gaining any influence inside the new bloc. And I think I've heard really from some sources they saying that neighboring Iraqi countries have stressed on Saleh al-Mutlaq not to include other forces within this new alliances. I think I mean, talking about the alliance between Saleh al-Mutlaq and Iyad Allawi, it really represents the old Ba'athist regime in Iraq and new Iraq.
Is it the old Ba'athist regime, Ghassan al-Atiyah, or are they trying to appeal to Iraqi nationalism and in particular to the secularists and to the liberals?
The fact that they call themselves national or whatever it is, actually now the mantle of sectarianism or religion is being taken off, and they are wearing now in general the mantle of national. Even the Shia Islamic Council now, they call them national. Even al-Maliki is national. Everyone is calling national. But this is a response to the discontent of the Iraqi people who are really disgusted with the sectarian movement because they didn't gain any much of this. Now, to your question, al-Mutlaq and Allawi, actually they are the odd couples. The odd couples, they are different in every aspect. Don't tell me they are in this. Each one of them things in his own way. And now I will tell you, if the position, there was a hectic movement among secular, liberal Iraqis. I was part into this effort to bring all these forces together, mainly because the Iraqi scene, the way it is, highly paralyzed between Shia sectarian, Sunni sectarianism, and the Kurd. What is needed is a fourth force, a force which could play a role of balancing act between this. Without this force, we will be actually repeating the 2005 scene, namely Shia, Sunni, Kurd. But there was an attempt to create this. But actually, Allawi and Mutlaq preempted this effort by declaring this position and refusing to cooperate with others on an equal basis. And this is the sad side of the story.
They kept the door open, Sabri, for others to join them. You mentioned the Iraqi Vice President Tariq al-Hashimi, the former Deputy Prime Minister Rafi al-Isawi. They are also thinking perhaps Adnan al-Dulemi, the Kurd front, might join them, and even Dhafar al-Ani. And yet, that might not happen simply because some of the coalitions, they have one person running on that ticket. For instance, the Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki for the state of law. As for the Iraqi National Coalition headed by Ammar al-Hakim, they might have Adil Abdel Mahdi. With this new alliance, the one we are talking about, Iyad Allawi as well as Saleh al-Mutlaq, they don't have a single forerunner for them, as of this moment at least. Is that the difference between the two men? Both of them, they want to be leaders?
Exactly, that's what happened. You see, we talked with Iyad Allawi and we tried to join forces with him and with Saleh al-Mutlaq. But I think the main the main objection of Allawi is he wants to take all credit and he wants to be a prime minister. I mean, the jostling of position between between Allawi and Saleh al-Mutlaq is who will be the next prime minister. This is a problem. I think this is, you see, when you talk about being patriot is not just a slogan you carry. It's what you did. Like, for example, Iyad Allawi and Saleh al-Mutlaq, in the past 3 years, they never attended the parliament. You never saw them in parliament. They never saw them defending the Iraqi people. We just see them on the TV stations and see them in press conferences. I quite agree with Dr. Al-Atiyah when he said, like, there is a move towards national unity or parties based on secular and national sentiments. But the problem is only a skin deep, and it's only happening within the Sunni community. I mean, the Shia community and the Kurds will still sectarian, and the constituents will select their representative on sectarian basis, while the Sunnis will be divided. And I think this will backfire on the Sunni community after the elections, because they will elect lists where there is Sunnis and Shias like Allawis and Saleh al-Mutlaq, while the Shia community and the Kurds will elect only Shia and Kurdish representatives in the next parliament.
Ghassan al-Atiyah, for 35 years, Iraq was headed by a strong man called Saddam Hussein. Everybody knew him, and everybody said, you know, this guy loves the limelight, he's a prima donna. Looking at the Iraqi politicians, there isn't much difference between them and Saddam Hussein, is there?
Well, at the time there was only one Saddam Hussein, but now we have tens of Saddam Hussein, though in miniature Saddam Hussein. Unfortunately, most of these parties, with the exception of two parties, they are a one-man show. Mainly, it is a one-man show.
You mean they don't have a grassroots support?
No, they might have some support here and there, but who runs the party is one person. And with the exception of maybe the Communist Party and the Islamic Party, they have conferences, they have this, and even the Da'wah Party has it. But when the leadership differ, you see the loser will split rather than accept. Al-Ja'fari left the party and created his own wing against al-Maliki. Similarly with the Islamic Party, when al-Hashimi failed to win the leadership, instead of abiding by the rules of the democratic rule, he split the party, tried to have his own faction. We don't have yet the tradition of a democratic parties. And democracy without Democrat is nonsense, it doesn't appear. And today what we had happened really, I'm talking from direct contact with these people, we find that those politicians are really thinking in terms who will be having the upper hand. They don't accept to work as a teamwork. They don't accept a collective leadership. This was put on the table with the secular and liberal forces. I tell you a story, I would take a minute. I talked with one of the entities, political entities, who claimed to be a liberal secular. I said to him, why don't you join forces with others? Then we create a big bloc, because without a big bloc of liberals in the parliament, there will be no effective change in Iraqi future, because you need this bloc. He said, no, well, I have my own party. I am the charismatic leader. I am the strong one. And if they are welcome to join me and accept me as their leader. And if this is not enough, I have $30 million to spend. Can they match me? If they can match it, let them come. But don't ask me who is the person.
Speaking about money, Ghassan Al-Atiyah, that is exactly perhaps very telling about the very nature of election, Fareed Sabri. Between 2005 and now, al-Maliki, who is the prime minister with access to the treasury, spent millions of dollars as largesse, winning the support of the tribes as well as city councils, to the degree that the President Jalal Talbani threatened to take him to the Constitutional Court, saying that this money cannot be spent for political reasons. To what extent this money will be playing a big role between now and January?
I think it will play a big role, and it will be a decider really in the elections. For example, Nouri al-Maliki, and he used the government and used the government money in order for the last elections in order to spend on media and ads, and like in Al-Sharqiyya and Baghdadi and on these TV stations, satellite stations. And the other problem is the Iraqi state satellite TV station. It's all run by Nouri al-Maliki, and it's directed by Nouri al-Maliki. It's supposed to be directed by the Iraqi parliament. So this will be a big decider in the next Iraqi elections. And, you know, I mean, people of Iraq would really, most of the people in the region will believe whatever said on TV stations, on their national TV stations. And this
Ghassan Al-Atiyah, I read a quote for you saying that this election is Iraq's last chance. I didn't know what to make of it. Go ahead, explain it to me.
It is the last chance for us to break from the sectarian ethnic mold. That is by helping a fourth group of secular, liberal, but they have to be not few MPs, but rather 50, 60 MPs, and then they can change the political scene. But if they enter the parliament as scattered and fragmented groups, no change will be. And thus, what happened today is by Allawi and Mutlaq, when the way they appeared and preempted other efforts, actually they are perceived by the Iraqi as a Ba'athi and Sunni. And the reaction to this, there's a pressure on al-Maliki and the ISKI, the Islamic Council, to unite, because now they make it to appear as the Sunni and the Ba'athi are threatening the Shia. And this state of polarization will be very, very dangerous situation in Iraq and will bring us back to 2005. But I would like to add a pointed about the money. You see, I notice here in Baghdad, the way the parties, the big parties, are opening branches in the provinces. Some of the neighboring countries are opening consulates, and their ambassador is roaming from one party to another. In addition to that, you will notice that actually this election, the party or the coalition without the money have no chance of winning anything. So those who have the money, literally, I'm sorry to say, literally they dictate their terms. And in this case, the coalition which is now working on, which include Mutlaq and others, and Rafi al-Aisawi and Usama and Jafi, they agreed to work together with also al-Mutlaq, with the Minister of Interior, Jawad al-Bolani. But really, the one who stood against all this is basically Mr. Allawi, because he actually has the money, he can dictate the terms, and he split the movement. And today we will see the situation, even within the small group of Rafi Isawi, Deputy Prime Minister, Usama and Jafi, they agreed to work together. Still, they agreed on the name with Iraqi National Movement. Without informing them, they preempted them and declared the Iraqi National Movement without the rest. This is really a shamble. This is a farce situation. If one called this democracy, welcome dictatorship.
It is democracy for sale, Fareed Sabri. If money is the deciding factor, most likely, and if you are a betting man, most probably al-Maliki will win another term, because simply he has access to the Iraqi treasury, and there are no controls as of this moment to say this is public fund, you cannot use it for political purposes as in the West.
I quite agree with this premise, and I think we've been, in the Iraqi Islamic Party, we've been trying for the past 6 months in order to limit the influence of the Iraqi government through investigation and through reactivating the Iraqi parliament. Look what Iyad Allawi, the head of the parliament, has done in the past 6 months, and he tried to turn the table. He tried to really apply real democracy into Iraqi politics. But the problem is, we still see that Nouri al-Maliki and people inside the Iraqi government are trying in order to divert the attention from questioning corrupt Iraqi ministers and questioning corrupt Iraqi officials. I think the struggle is still going on between true Democrats, between people who has got their hands on politics, like our people, like Iyad Allawi, like people from the Accord Front, and between people from the government, from the executive, who try to usurp all power in Iraq and who try to really recreate the same scene after the election of 2010.
For the past several weeks, if not months, Ghassan al-Atiyah, Iraqi politicians are deadlocked in parliament trying to vote an election law. That has not happened so far simply because of the dispute over Kirkuk. But today there was an announcement that the political leaders of the various parties, they may, underlines the word may, have agreed to for a certain formula to include Kirkuk in the next election on January. Will this new law make it easier, make it more transparent for Iraqis to choose their representatives?
Today, the committee concerned with this agreed, which include all the parties, Kurds, Turkmen, others. And they decided that on Saturday we'll put it to vote. Some of the Turkmen are not happy with it, but actually it is a compromise which will accept Kirkuk, the election in Kirkuk, for 1 year, and there will be a commission to investigate the registrar of the votes and other things, and if there are discrepancies they will deal with it afterwards. This is a compromise. But now the question is also it will be an open list elections based on the provinces rather than one single district, Iraq as one single district. If they pass this law, will be a relief to the Iraqis, and hopefully they can have the election on the 16th of June. Otherwise, Iraq would really slide into a very dangerous situation, and there was so much influence and played by so many actors on those Iraqi, especially on the Kurds, to accept this compromise. And I am hopeful this will be passed next Saturday.
Farid, the Americans, they want nothing except, for this phase to be over and for Iraq to have a measure of solidarity and a measure of perhaps democracy. But if that is not going to happen, let's just suppose that there will be differences and there will be some sort of confusion. How do you look at the American position vis-a-vis election?
I think the Americans are trying really to push the Iraqi elections, the Iraqi electorate, in order to be more secular in his choices. But the problem is, as I said earlier in this program, that more secular choices, it's only happening in the Sunni community. And this will enhance the Shia and Kurdish power again in the new Iraqi parliament. We've been hearing news that Saleh al-Mutlaq has been supported by the United States, and Iyad Allawi the same. And this is really a great problem, because the problem is we'll divide Iraq into two main blocks, the Shia and Kurdish community, Kurdish power inside the Iraqi parliament, and things will be repeated another 4 years. And I think Iraq will suffer again, because as we've seen, the Iraqi government now, headed by Nouri al-Maliki, has really failed miserably in its promises. And I think repeating this failure will be a big problem for Iraq and for Iraq's future.
Ghassan al-Atiyah, we mentioned the rhetoric, the nationalism, waving the flags and donning the mantle of nationalism. Will we see more of this between now and January?
Well, it is an open secret that there will be more act of terrorism, whatever it is, because now there's an attempt, real attempt, any explosion, what happened this month and last August. Actually, these two incidents is so sad, but partly they were politically motivated, and their direct effect to weaken al-Maliki government. Here the question is, some people will use these explosions partly, and they benefit from it, to put pressure on Maliki to join forces with the Shia coalition into one front. And
as if you are implying some of his former colleagues, some of his former partners are behind these explosions in order to say, either you come back or we're going to embarrass you before the Iraqis.
No, we don't have evidence, but we will ask who will benefit from these explosions. Those who these explosions weaken the government, showed it, because the trump card of the Maliki, that he achieved more security in the cities, and he was claiming on this basis to win the election. But once with these highly organized and sophisticated explosions, definitely will dent his position and weaken his position. He is aware of this. Whether who is behind it, I cannot tell, I cannot say. But who benefits, I can tell you who benefits. The other factor in this, now if al-Maliki, under all this pressure, will join forces with the ISKI group or the Shia Islamic Council, this will again push the Sunni into uniting into a Sunni front, and then Iraq will de facto be another sectarian divide, which will lead another fighting among them. That's why there is a big need for the secular to unite together. Unfortunately, I say it without any questions, al-Allawi and Mutlaq were not helpful in this field.
Farid Sabri, I think al-Maliki has decided not to join the Iraqi national coalition headed by Ammar al-Hakim. He put very stringent conditions that they were not able to oblige him. But it was very telling to hear the Iraqi Interior Minister, Jawad al-Bolani, immediately after the last set of explosions to say, I am not responsible for the security of Baghdad. As a matter of fact, al-Maliki is.
Well, to a certain extent, this is true. Al-Maliki is responsible for the forces that is running Baghdad. Al-Maliki is responsible for the security forces. And the problem is there is a kind of division inside the Iraqi security forces. They are about 1 million strong, but the problem is we have a center of powers, a kind of competition between Noor al-Maliki and Jawad al-Bolani. We've noticed this in the past 6 months, and this has gone to the contrary of the Iraqi security situation. And this has affected, because there was in fact no harmony between the security forces, different security forces in Iraq, and that's what really helped the terrorists to put these to attack the Iraqi ministries and go through the gaps between these security forces.
Farid Sabri, Ghassan Atiyah, gentlemen, thank you for being guests on Inside Iraq. To watch the show online, please go to aljazeera.net/English. We have reached the end of this show. Join me next week when we take another look inside Iraq. Until then, have a great week.